football science and technology to augment match day performance. I would quickly introduce the speaker and request the ones who are present here to join me on the stage. Tony Grant, UEFA Pro Coach, Head of Football Education at Dartel and ex-Technical Director, East Bengal. Christian Osgnach, Sports Scientist Exilio SRL and a Fitness Coach. Dr. Anirban Malik, Scientific Officer Sports Medicine at Sports Authority of India and AFC Travelling Fellow. Dr. Janvi Dande, Scientific Officer Sports Medicine at Sports Authority of India and heading the Department of Sports Medicine. Mr. Pedro Arujua, CEO of Branded Digital Media Services, Barcelona. The moderator for this session will be Ricardo Balbeira, the sports management expert from Portugal, an international relations head for the Portuguese Football Coaches Association and the head of online education of Universidade Europea as moderator of our last session for the day. A big round of applause for them, please.
I see you are very excited. I hope that you can enjoy one more hour of debates. Okay, so in this specific panel, we'll try to connect technology with science, with scouting, with medicine, with performance. So the main purpose is to understand how all of this new technology is helping out the different staff members and the different areas of knowledge associated with football. I'm not quite sure who of our panelists is already on board, so we are going to try to improvise a bit, okay? So before we start, there is a small exercise that I would like you all to do. We're talking about technology. We're talking about technology applied to football. So I would like you to interact a bit with the person seated right next to you. And I would like you to, during 3 minutes, 4 minutes, to explain which technology is more important in your day-to-day job with football. And then I will select some of you to come here at the stage and share a bit with us. We know that the best way to learn is not only to listen, but also to share. So I would ask you in 3 minutes to speak a bit with the one that is seated right next to you and share what kind of technology is more relevant at the moment in your work with football, okay? Starting now, 3 minutes. I also would like to welcome our panelists that are abroad, Christian, Carlos, and Tony, and Pedro. I believe that you guys are with us already, so we are just doing a small exercise, a 3-minute exercise to wake up our audience, and then we'll go back to you guys, okay?
Okay, fine.
Okay, guys, time's up. So try to manage all the information that you shared with the person seated next to you. And in a few minutes, I'm going to call one of you guys to come here and share with us, okay? Can be any of you, okay? So I would like to start first with Dr. Janavi. Have I pronounced it right this time? Yes, okay. So we are talking about technology. In your specific case, What is the importance of workload monitoring? And can you explain, well, the basics about it? What is the purpose? What kind of technology do you use? And how can we use it in football to benefit the performance of the players?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I would like to thank the authorities of the organizers of GSC 3.0 for inviting me for this panel discussion. And I would also like to appreciate or congratulate the GSC 3.0 for their vision in development of football and their holistic approach in development of this football. So moving on to the question, workload management. It is a very important aspect and it has got a lot of significance. Apart from performance enhancement, it also has got a very great role in, the recovery, in assessing the recovery of the athlete and in also the fitness and fatigue aspects of the athlete, and also the internal load management. That also it plays a very important role. And workload management is something like it can be divided into two types. One is external load management and the other is internal load. The external load is something like what the coach gives to the athlete. Like it is the performance capability of the athlete. It tells us about the performance capabilities. And it can be you can assess it in terms of the number of sprints covered, or you can assess it in terms of the distance covered, the timings and everything. And for monitoring this, we need certain tools. Like for external monitoring, we have GPS tracking, the accelerometers and the dynamometers. All these will track the external load. Coming to the internal load, this is the very important aspect in which you can identify the physiological as well as psychological response of the athlete's body, of the footballer's body, to the load that he has been taken. So you have subjective measures to monitor it, and you have objective measures also. So all these will indicate, if you are monitoring this workload, what are the new things that you will know. You can identify the injury risk. So how do you identify the injury risk? The acute load that tells about the fatigue of the athlete, and that is a weekly load. You also call it as weekly load. That can be calculated by session rate of perceived exertion. And this acute load, the ratio of acute is to chronic load. Chronic load indicates the fitness of the athlete. So the ratio of acute and chronic load, it should be between 0.8 to 1.2. So while monitoring regularly, if the ratio is below or above, it tells that the athlete may land up into injuries, either by undertraining or by overtraining. So, and the monotony. You can even calculate the monotony in workload management. This is a basic thing that can be done at field level by any coaches. You don't need any equipment. Even there are very equipment for objective monitoring, but still, subjectively, you can, at a field level also, any coach can do this. So, the monotony index also, if it is more than 2, monotony is nothing but the standard deviation from the training, from the weekly training load. So if you can calculate it, simple mathematical calculations, and you can identify the monotony. So if it is more than 2, then also the athlete is at risk of illnesses, injuries and overtraining. So these are the basic aspects which one can look into towards the workload management. I think I made it clear. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for your answer. Going to Christian. Christian, Doctor told us about external workload. I'm aware that you represent, or you are the responsible for a system of GPS, right? I would like to understand how does your system, the sensors of your system, can help to monitor the external load. Christian?
Yeah, thank you. For first of all, do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So good afternoon also from me, and thank you for the invitation. Yes, even the question is quite simple, and colleague answered partly to the question. I think that the answer would require a long time because the measure of the training load by using kind of technology is almost as common as wearing the football boots at the professional level. So to make this long story short, from a fitness coach perspective, I think that it's quite easy to plan an exercise by using a known distance that needs to be covered in a certain time, repeat it for some repetition, separated by recovery time. This recovery could be in a standing position or more or less active. So when we plan the exercise in this way, we can set very precisely the intensity according to the fitness level of the athlete, and we can also decide the total volume of the session because we can repeat this routine 1, 2, 3 times to reach the training load we desired. But when we move in a football context, for example, when we are in an official match, when we play a small-sided game, there are no fixed distances to cover in a fixed time. So everything happens completely randomly. And if we want to assess the amount of physical work performed, the only way is to measure the activity of the player involved. So with the GPX, to go straight to your question, with GPX, which is a system that is based on the GPS technology, we can track all the movements of the player who wear a device, of course, on their back. Think of it like a car's navigation system. So, but it is extremely advanced in terms of accuracy and time resolution because you need to get a very short change of speed. So the unit, as I told you, measure very precisely the speed of the athlete, and from there you can get a huge amount of derived information. So the distance covered, the top speed reached, hundred of parameters that can potentially be collected for 20, 30 players and collected day by day. So you, at the end of the process, you have a lot of data, and since it's almost impossible to manage this large amount of data, my goal in the company, which is the same that I had in the past as a fitness coach, is to focus my attention only on few parameters that help to understand how players behave in the best way possible. So and at the end of this process, if this is clear enough, from this data I can understand that probably tomorrow I need to train more or less, or that the exercise was perfect or was not so good. So to reach some intensity from a physical perspective, maybe I need to change something, to change the dimension of the pitch, to change the number of players, and so and so. So in this way, I can reach my goals in terms of volume and intensity. Just to summarize, the GPX system allows measuring soccer-specific activity during the training or the matches, and from there help the technical staff to understand if the training done is following the training plan. So if not, the staff knows what are the causes of this lack and can decide whether and how to fix things in the next days.
Thank you very much, Christian. One more question to you. I remember about 15 years ago, I was with a competitor of yours in Portugal from Statsport. and he was trying to sell to the Portuguese club the system, and that at that time the system cost about 100,000 euros for the team. And I said, well, you're crazy. In Portugal, maybe 3 or 4 clubs can manage to buy those systems. But now all the clubs have it. Okay, in Portugal, all the clubs have it. Why is so important to have these systems working on a football club? Christian?
Told you, I think that especially in the club that have also the youth, the academy, this is a way to understand how the athletes grow. If you can also maybe get with saving some time, you get some quality of the players. You can select early the position of the player. So in terms of the academy management, I think that to track the performance of the player can help in select the talent or detect the quality of these players. And once you are at the top level, of course, by managing the workload, maybe you can try. It's not always possible because there are many factors that have an impact on the performance, but you can try to be ready for each game to perform at your maximum, and at the same time you can try to avoid any injury risk. This is a kind of like walking in the mountains. Sometimes you fall out, but it's almost something that you need to consider. It's not possible to avoid completely the injury or any decrease of performance.
Yeah, it's a must-have now on the football clubs. I'm quite sure of it. The club that doesn't have it is in disadvantage because all of the data that is produced helps a lot on improvement of the performance of the players and injury prevention also, as you said, Christian. So I believe Tony is here with us also. Tony?
Hi, Tony's here.
Hello, Tony.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
So Tony, now about match analysis. Is it possible to do match analysis without video analysis? So I would say, how would you do match analysis 25, 30 years ago? Is it possible? Yeah. Did the technology came to make this kind of thing happen for coaches to be able to analyze the matches?
Yeah. So firstly, it's a pleasure to speak to all you guys. And regarding analysis on match day, so I think we can all agree that the ultimate test for a sportsman or a sportswoman is actually match day, when the crowds all come to judge your performance. Lots of different aspects will be seen, will be shown. As a coach, gathering information and preparation for the team is that's my goal. That's my job. How can I show my players the opposition they're up against? How can I show them the opposition weaknesses? How can we set up a game plan to get the correct result? So in my day, back as you just said, 25 years ago, we never had any video analysis then. It was all done through verbal, through the coach's direction. We never really bothered about the opposition back in the day, and that was at Premier League level. You know, now fast forward 20 years, video analysis has become something that you can't hide from as a player. You know, the video doesn't tell lies. There's no bias in video. So it shows you everything that you need to see. So looking at my players who are setting up for the team, for the game, now I can get eyesight on the opposition's shape. I know who's fast, I know who's slow, I know how they take set pieces, I know the routines. So the whole preparation now through video analysis has given a coach so many tools to improve and to hopefully get the desired result. And you can narrow this down then. You can narrow this down to individual and unit traits. You know, it gives us so much time to bring in individuals and show them who they're up against, show them what foot they kick with. So the amount of detail we can actually get from video is frightening, really. And it's become a way now through the academy system, especially in the UK. It's become now a normal where players are actually expecting this detail now and they're used to it. Back in the day, there were maybe players would have been a little bit scared by too much information. Now the future generation actually look forward to the information. They want to know everything. And if you don't give them it, the modern player, you know, the quickly to tell you, you know, if you don't, if you've got your set pieces wrong, they're quickly to tell you. So as a coach, you have all this stuff to prepare. So pre-match sets you up. Your half-time feedback is quick. You know, your KPIs that you set out for a club, what you find important. Or in live time, as the game's going on, your analyst is actually clipping up really important traits that's happening in the game that can hopefully, in the second half, can hopefully turn your fortunes round. So the video gives us eyes that we can't see on a pitch. You know, most coaches are sitting halfway line, pitch side. The video's up in the sky. It gets a full picture. So as a coach, myself and many coaches embrace the technology that we can use. Did you want me to carry on to post-match? Did you say?
No, not really. We'll have the opportunity to go a little bit further on that subject. So,
yeah.
My question now is to Pedro. Pedro, good afternoon and welcome. My question will be about scouting. In the morning, we had one of the panelists saying that there is no database of players, of Indian players. So here is an opportunity for you guys. I'd like to ask you, how important is to have a good scouting software to create that database, mostly in such a big country as India? And is it possible to do it without having a software, Pedro?
Good afternoon to all and to my colleagues. I think that everyone is hearing me well.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, just one correction from the host. The company is not from Barcelona, but is from Portugal. We are here talking about scouting because we have scoutingsystem.com since 2012, and we work with a lot of clubs and federations and football organizations or soccer organizations all around the world, developing the best way to scout. India is a challenge because of the population is huge, but it's an interesting challenge. I was able to visit India in 2017 for the Under-17 World Cup, and I had some meetings with staff from the IAFF, I think, Indian Federation, Football Federation, and I explained my idea to try to scout in India, because the first thing you need to do is to identify the players. So to create a proper database, you need to have on the people's mobile phones a way to insert the player name, position, and age, and some basic profile data. We did that successfully in California with Cal South and with Cal North. We did that in other countries and with other football associations, and I explained that possibility to IAFF. So, of course, if you ask me, it's possible, for sure it is, but you need to start working on a local level, then go to a regional level, and go then to a state level, and then to a national level. So I believe that on the United States, we have the same challenge with the US soccer some years ago. I believe there's a Belgian company also, Double Pass, I think also is present on this event, Global Soccer Conclave, and they also did this, and they create an identification number for each one of the players that were playing football in the country. It's a challenge, but I think it's possible with some local teams and with some local cooperation, and in terms of systems and computer, and I think India is a country that is even more developed than some countries that we might think that they are more developed than India. And India on that stage, I think in terms of computing and computer science, it's a very interesting country. So I believe it's possible to do, and it's of course it's a big challenge, and I think it's the first step to start having more consistent Indian players all around the world, because the only Indian player that I can remember was one that I met personally, that played in Sporting Portugal in 2007, I believe. And it was something big for India. And also the Under-17 World Cup with the project that I know well from Mr. Norton de Matos, that create a team of Under-17s to play on the National League and develop some very interesting players. But then they need to be shown to the world. And in order to be shown to the world, they need to be on the most common databases that everyone uses, like Opta or Huddle or Sports Radar or whatever. They need to be there. That's it. There's no miracle.
Okay, Pedro, thank you very much. Now going to Dr. Malik, it's here with us. We're talking about injury prevention. I'd like to know what is the state of art in this specific area, and how is technology also helping out to prevent injuries? Malik.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks for having me in this conclave. From the morning, we have heard this thing that somehow there is a lack of sports science application in football, especially in Indian football. We have heard this from the morning from various speakers, especially in the context when FIFA has made a very high standard, be it football science or football medicine. They don't call it sports medicine, they call it football medicine. So they are so much specific about that. Now, injury prevention is one of that aspect. And it is not a single factor that is responsible for that. I will not go into the nitty-gritty of those things, but it's a multifactorial thing, which start from a good, robust and solid database, where you get your injury spectrum. Now, from FIFA, we always get a very well conducted study after each and every World Cup. So that is the first step of injury prevention. So that is your injury data. Number two, there are other factors that needs to be included in that. It may be your performance parameters, it may be your load monitoring system. So all the technologies that our previous speakers, they have spoken, that will also come into picture, how you monitor your loading pattern. And then you come up with injury prevention planning. Now, FIFA has already got 11 plus program in injury prevention for quite long time. Now, that is a separate question, how you are implementing that. And now, FIFA has also come up with a separate injury prevention program for the goalkeeper only. So that's where the FIFA standards are. But in Indian context, because we are lacking that particular, I would say, there is no sort of central repository. So that makes it a bit difficult to form an injury prevention program, or rather to evaluate the FIFA injury prevention program in Indian football context. So I believe that the new AIFF administration will look into that. We will see more and more scientific application. We should have a good central data repository system where we get these injury data and other performance parameters so that we can effectively apply these different injury prevention programs, because we always believe that it is always better to prevent an injury rather than to treat it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Janavi, another question for you, and this one I have to read because this is not my area of speciality. So what are the latest developments of wearable sensors for various biochemical markers?
Thank you.
Have I read it right?
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. Actually, speaking about wearable sensors, as I have already discussed, for performance enhancement, we are using wearable sensors. Most of the elite teams worldwide, they are using wearable sensors like GPS tracking and everything for performance management, performance enhancement, or performance monitoring, I would say. But biomarkers usually they tell about the recovery and they tell about the fatigue status of the athlete. So biomarkers, real-time monitoring of biomarkers through these wearable sensors, we are still in its infancy now. Even in the world, some wearable devices have been developed, but still valid data and validated studies have not been conducted yet. And I don't think till 2020 any team using any wearable sensor for biochemical markers, for assessment or identification of this real-time monitoring of biochemical markers. So developments, if we look at it, biosensors have been used in medicine long back. They were used in portable devices for glucose monitoring, for lactate monitoring, like in Lactate Scout, etc. But still, blood sample needs to be taken. That means they were used, they were invasive. Later what happened, adhesive patches have been developed, and instead of blood, now the sample has been transferred from blood to saliva or sweat, because these can be monitored real time. So saliva also, there are some disadvantages, because those sports which use mouth guards, they only like sensors were they were impregnated in the mouth guards, so that only those sports which use mouth guards, parameters were monitored in those sports only. Then coming to sweat. So sweat is eccrine sweat, that is attaching these adhesive patches or wristbands or headbands, torso bands. Lot of them have been developed, and through sweat the accuracy is also almost the same as the blood, like it is nearer to the blood, and all the parameters, all the biochemical parameters like your blood glucose, like your lactate, cortisol, the electrolytes for monitoring hydration status, all these markers can be monitored, and various devices have been developed by companies to monitor this. And ultimately another development in this is the sensors, they need to be flexible, because they have to be attached so that the sweat will not dry up. So flexibility has been improved, and the devices have been designed in such a way that flexibility component has been added. as well as the stretchability component. This is another advancement because the skin is stretchable. If the device is not stretchable, then the accuracy will be, it won't be that accurate. So the flexibility as well as stretchability has been improved in the devices, and along with that, if any athlete is training in the cold environments, like in Europe, you have certain countries which have very cold climates. So for that, iontophoresis is a technique which has been incorporated so that the sweat comes by itself. In cold environment, usually the athlete will not sweat or will sweat very little. So this also has been improved. And underwater, like for swimming, to monitor the biomarkers for sports like swimming, which are played underwater, water resistant bands also have been developed. So these are all the developments, but we are still way behind the implementation aspect, like how we can monitor the performance aspects through these sensors. We are not able to, we are still lagging behind, and lot of research, not only from the companies that have manufactured, large-scale studies need to be conducted so that these markers can be utilized in future. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you for sharing. Christian, my next question is to you. We know that the GPS collects a lot of data. We know that to operate that data, we need experts, high qualified experts to analyze that. But can you tell me what are the metrics most used by the clubs and what they are useful for?
I have to make mute. It's a very interesting question. I can tell you my own experience or the experience given by my colleague here in Italy and around the world. Of course, sometimes the quality of a system can be attributed to the amount of information that it gives to the user. But our challenge and my challenge in my past work in the club as a fitness coach was a little bit different, because we want to suggest a manageable number of KPIs that are most suitable to describe the performance. So for this purpose, we work alongside our colleagues until we are aware that they are ready to read any report they can export from our system. So the way to focus on the most important variables of the performance is to find, in my opinion, an answer to two main questions that are the following. The first one refers to the metabolic or the energetic parameters, so the amount of energy that the players expend during his activity. So in this case, we want to describe the ability of the player to repeat the high demanding actions from an energy expenditure perspective. And these actions are always or often hidden when using the traditional parameters like speed and acceleration, because these actions mostly arise from a combination of moderate speed and moderate acceleration. These actions are demanding, but don't require the maximum from the athlete. So it's like when you drive a car and you need to overcome another car. You don't ask to the car the full power. So the metabolic parameters instead are useful, especially to describe the way the players recover from these high demanding activities. So which is one of the behavior that most change between players in terms of time needed to repeat following high demanding activities, and the intensity during the recovery, which is one of the most interesting characteristic of for the coach, to have, let's say, a squad that is always well positioned on the pitch and ready to push the opponent under pressure. So one part, in my opinion, regards the energetic way the athlete behave. And the second one refers to the mechanical parameters. So we are talking about high-speed phases and all the other activities where the player is required to push at the maximum on the gas pedal. So traditionally, this last information is, let's say, expected to obtain from the accelerations and decelerations. However, it's a too long story, but the acceleration alone cannot give this information, because the maximal intensity of the acceleration phase depends also on the starting speed. So it's true that starting from a standing position, the player can accelerate a lot, like when you start with your car from the traffic light and you feel pushed on the seat. But if you are running, let's say at a moderate speed, and you accelerate, you don't have the possibility to accelerate a lot. So this kind of action cannot be detected from the traditional metrics. And this activity is like when you drive your car on a motorway and you need to overcome a truck, let's say, and you don't feel pushed in the seat. So the acceleration is not so high. So if this is the goal, the acceleration cannot be the response or the parameters that give you the information you need from a muscular perspective. So to fix the states of affairs, we developed, starting from this season, a new mechanical approach that needs as a prerequisite the sprint profiling of the player, which can be done by the system, by the GPS system itself. And according to this individual acceleration speed profile, we can detect all our activities that are very important from a muscular or mechanical perspective. So I think that when we talk about monitoring of the player, the challenge should be to deal with no more than 10, 15 parameters, some related to the energy expenditure or metabolic power, other describing the muscle load or mechanical power, and this is the idea behind our system and the way I love to work.
Thank you very much, Christian. Tony, now 3 questions in one for you. First, about the post-match analysis. How important is it? Then, if you record the training sessions and analyze the training sessions also. And the third has to be with the drone technology. If you see any utility in having aerial footage of the training and the match, and if you believe that's going to be the future to analyze the matches with drone technology.
Okay,
Tony.
So starting with the post-match. Okay, so we've had the pre-match, we've had the half-time where the analysis has been really useful, and the video has been really useful. The players have got information in live time. Now it comes to the post-match. The players have all gone home, and the coaches get a chance to sit down and go back over the game. take away any bias. You know, most coaches only remember really certain aspects of a 90-minute game. You know, you don't remember the whole game. So the video has become huge for the coaches' feedback. Okay, so the important aspects, after we've watched through it and we've made notes of the game, the important aspects are your dangerous moments in a game for you and against you. Now you can analyse it, and we can speak in a room with other coaches, goals for, goals against, set piece routines, have the players listened, is the players' concentration levels before the game there. So all this is able because of the video. Then you look at injuries. If there's any injuries on the pitch, the video now becomes a tool which the physiotherapist now can look at to have extra diagnostics. So the video gives us so much. After the video, we've gone through it and we've analysed it. We look at the GPS. We always go to GPS and we see if that correlates to the performance of the team. We look at certain aspects. We've always looked at high intensity sprints in our country. You know, if you're the team who has more high intensity sprints and you can recover quickly, there's a good chance you're going to win the game. That seems to be a trait in the UK. But then, your second question was about the drones. Would that be correct? Was it
No,
drones?
the second one is about filming the training sessions, and how do you find it useful to film the training sessions to analyze it?
Yeah, well, if we work backwards on the training sessions and we look at individuals, you know, it doesn't matter what level of football you're at, whether it's youth team football, whether it's first team, it's always a constant development, you know, and the video is just a tool for the coach. So when we're coaching players and we're coaching teams, we're actually coaching individuals Monday to Friday. So if we're working on certain players, then we can show them in the video room things we want to work on, things they have to improve. And then we take that into the units, then we take that into the team strategy, and we can now train and show. So the identity we're going to create, the players buy into it because they can see it. So that visual aid is quite powerful. So the individual development is all backed up by the video. The team strategy is all backed up. So everything for the coach is all backed up. And then when you talk about drones, we've got to use drones a couple of times. We don't use them all the time. They're still new really in lots of our coachings, but we have had weeks and months where we have used them. And there is a huge part for them to play in the future of football, in team shape and team identity, because the picture it gives you and the clearness for the players. We've shown players footage from a drone, and certain aspects make more sense. They can see different spaces, they can see distance between each other. So I think the drone technology is going to catch on, and I think it's going to be a big part of future coaching.
Okay, Tony, thank you very much for your insights. Now, one other part of the match that is very important are the referees, right? Without referees, there is no match or professional match. Pedro, this question is to you. What kind of technology did you guys develop for the Portuguese referees, and how does it help to make those referees more effective? Pedro.
Asking me things about referees, it's some trick, I believe. But okay, thank you, Ricardo. I will try to answer that. So we developed together with Samsung smartwatch for the referees, and of course this was a project also with the Portuguese League. And we create a very easy way to replace the notes that the referees are taking during the match on the cards. So using a Samsung smartwatch, but could be any other brand smartwatch, But on this particular situation, the Portuguese league was sponsored by Samsung. So we create an app for the smartwatch where you just select the yellow card. Then preloaded was the roster of both teams and the starting 11s of both teams, because this is synchronized with the Portuguese League website and also with the Portuguese League cloud system that confirms the starting 11s and everything. So when the referee starts the match on his wrist, on the watch, he has all the starting 11 from both teams, and also the technical staff there is on the bench, because as you know, those people, they can also be booked with a yellow card or red card, and some discipline notes. So what we did was a yellow icon, a red icon, and then the player names and the motives for the yellow card and the red card. And then in the end of the match, all this information synchronizes with the cloud server from the Portuguese League, and it's on the PDF report. So this was a very interesting case. We present this case study in a lot of different places all around the world, and it's always well received. I believe the biggest issue we have sometimes is to sit on the same table, referees and leagues and clubs, and making this happen. On the Portuguese League, this happened on official competitions like the League Cup, probably because our league president was a former international referee, and he looked at this as also a personal project, and also as a way of having the referees more involved on the game that we all love, that is football.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. As you see, sometimes not very hard software can solve some problems, and I believe that this is the kind of issue. You have a smartphone, you have an app on a smartphone. Why not the referees using that app to record the yellow and the red cards to simplify their work? So it's a simple solution for problems that improve the match and improve the quality of the game. Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you.
My last question goes to Dr. Malik. In Portugal, we had a few years ago a player dying live on TV with cardiac arrest. About 1 year ago, we had also, I believe, a handball player also having these kind of issues. So, Dr. Malik, what is the importance of cardiac screening, and what kind of precautions are necessary during the match to mitigate these kind of risks?
Thanks for the question. It's a very controversial topic, and a topic which is very close to my heart. And I consider myself lucky to be a part of the largest study group in Indian sports cardiology. And the scene that we have seen in last Euro with Christian Eriksen, I believe we don't want to see that on a football ground, right? So there are three aspects on this particular issue. First, how we can screen our footballers. That is point number one. Through all the investigation, clinical examination, all those things. So first thing is how we can prevent this kind of incident to happen on a football ground. Point number one. Point number two is, even though we have the state-of-the-art cardiac surveillance strategy, these incidents do happen and will happen. take my word, you cannot prevent it 100%. Even though the investigation that we are doing is approximately 94 to 95% sensitivity and specificity, but still these incidents do happen on a football ground. Remember, football is a sport having the highest dynamic component. We have a medical classification of sports, and in that classification, football is having the highest dynamic component, and that means football is having the highest cardiac stress. So, the thing that we have seen in case of Christian Eriksen, that the player collapsed on ground, even though the player belongs to European community from Denmark, I believe, where there have been a robust cardiac surveillance project already in place. The player is playing in topmost European club, so there is no doubt that there is annual surveillance going on that particular player. Still that kind of incident will happen. So that takes me to this third point, is that if this kind of incident happen on ground, how well prepared your medical team is with your team, with your equipments. And we have seen in the same incident that the life of the player has been saved, and he has been back to the professional football again. And that brings me to the question number 3. And that is again a very controversial topic. The player, the same player is banned from playing in Italy, but allowed to play in UK. So that obviously that you or me cannot do anything, because we have to follow the law of the land, because a football player with an ICD in place cannot play football in Italy, but the same rule doesn't apply to England or UK, I should say. So that's why now the player has been shifted. He has been transferred to a English Premier League club, and he is playing in that English Premier League. So 3 major points here. One is the prevention of sudden cardiac arrest. Number 2, how even if this kind of incident happen on ground, at least we can save that player. And number 3, how to follow how to make a universal rule to allow or disallow a player with this kind of cardiac condition or with an ICD in place. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, as promised, I would like to have a coach voluntary. Here it is. Do you want to ask a question? Is that it? Okay. Can we have a microphone to... Okay, go ahead. Your name and job, please.
Hi, this is Hardik Agrawal from News 9, and I have a question related to analysis, particularly data analysis. A lot of data is at disposal at the moment, and a lot of clubs are using it for the betterment of the players and their teams. But in the future, can we expect the players to charge for the data? Like, will the players be charging for the data various companies are using? Will the players be getting remuneration for that particular data?
Okay, I believe Tony can help us out with this question. Tony?
Hello? Okay. Yeah, interesting question, isn't it? It's probably never been spoken about too much on that side. Let me just talk about data really quickly. And talk about academy systems really quickly. And 10 years ago in the UK, our academy systems were pen and paper. Most coaches coached pen and paper. Okay, myself included. I was a U16s coach, a U18s coach, pen and paper, coach, everything was written down. Okay. Fast forward 10 years, a new system comes in, and this is in the UK where clubs, believe me, they're spending millions and millions and millions of pounds purely on development football. Okay, and they're collecting data, they're collecting club data, so all their players, all their data, all their physical stats are all collected. We even move on further. We even move on further with education. You know, we collect education, and we're testing the players out, and we're challenging them to improve their education, because the mental side of the game is becoming, in England, in the UK, it's becoming really stressful for a lot of players. So we're doing a hell of a lot to try and change everything, and data is included in it. In my opinion, in India, I honestly believe every affiliation should really have every football academy should have a mandatory application that makes players visible worldwide, because it's not so much the Indian player collecting money for data, it's making these players visible to the world. You know, in the UK we have kids who are going to America on scholarships because our players are visible to the American audience of the colleges. The Indian kids aren't visible, and the only way we're making them visible is if we can implement an application such as Dartle, which is what Dartle does, which is what I'm involved in, such as that. This can create opportunities, which is where the players then might see some value in the data, because now they are visible all around the world, which right now they're not. You know, we need to bring some structure and some governance, and you know, as I said to you, 10 years ago in the UK, which the UK think they do everything the best. That's what they think. I'm not saying they do, but that's what they think. We were using pen and paper. So if the Indian ecosystem now for the academy system, and that includes data, and that includes scouting and improving coaches and improving qualifications, an application needs to be put in to all academies to make these players visible. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's where I see it. That's where I see the players might gain money from jobs and opportunities through data.
Thank you, Tony. Pedro, do you want to add something to Tony's exposition?
Probably just to say that I agree almost with what Tony was explaining. That was not only in England, but all across Europe. And I work for my company works for companies like Nike, using our scouting system platform to identify young talent players all around the world. And there's a debate growing if the players should get paid for other clubs and other and scouts all around the world using their player information, their player data. So I believe the question from the audience was more on this sense, like having like a royalty for being present on the player database. But like Tony says, and explained quite well, if you are not on the database, you are not making money for sure, because in order to be known, you need to be there. So this was really the same thing when it was pen and paper, and then Scout 7 appears, and scouting system and other systems appear on the landscape. And now everything it's more on technology based, but the principle is the same. And of course, the players, when they get to a certain level, they get a compensation, a financial compensation, let's say. Otherwise, it's a debate that is starting right now, probably, but I don't see that at this moment there's the players' union in different countries, if they are looking at this as an important matter, because even the academy players, they are not part of the union yet. So it will be a discussion for the next years, I think. But
Ricardo,
it's a very
can I
interesting
volunteer?
question for sure.
Can I volunteer, please? So, myself, Colonel Dr. Das Sharma, Hardik, you have asked about data and the using of data from the player base for monetization for the player. So, once we talk about data, there are 4 types of data. One is analytical data, which is my own health benefit and utilization for the thing for research purpose. Never ever you will get a money because there is a legal part. The law says if it is for the humanitarian benefit, you cannot earn through it. And it is also used for your own benefit. So therefore, load monitoring, recovery, whatever data is there, it is for your benefit as well as for research, product development, money will not occur. The second thing is scouting data, where your performance is getting captured through which you are getting benefited. You are already benefited out of that thing. So therefore also there is nothing called money involved. There is a third type of data where your performance is captured, but I am earning through that using that data, and that is the gaming activity, like gamifications, or you can say various betting apps. Here comes the role where my performance has been projected, and seeing that somebody is investing money, there can be a debate of whether I can earn money out of that. I think I'm clear.
And also the video games, right, Himanshu? The names of the players on the video games. For instance, FIFA Pro collects money out of it, distributes for the different national syndicates of players, and then the syndicates distribute the money or invest in projects that are relevant for the players. Thank you very much. There is any other question to be asked? Yes, please.
Hello, good evening. My name is Vinayak. So I'm a finance transformation expert. Around 3 months back, this news has been very surprising. As Kevin De Bruyne, so while extending his contract, he has used sports analytics rather than agent to extend his contract. So, which was very interesting. So going forward, can we see this trend that player taking the help of sports management or sports analytics to extend his contracts rather than take help from the agent?
Well, I'm not sure if is here any expert to answer that question. I'm not sure if this is the right panel to ask it.
Okay.
Either way, if anyone feels comfortable to answer the question, please do so.
I can try.
Okay.
I can try. Okay. I think I get the gist of the question. Okay. So if I'm wrong, okay, the guy is saying one of the players renewed his contract through not using an agent. Was that correct?
Yep.
Right, okay. Well, this is called education. You know, this is what this is. This is just pure education. You know, in my day as a footballer, we used agents because we never thought for ourselves, okay? But as education has improved, social media has improved, and people have got an opinion and understand the worth, you understand what they're worth, players can take more responsibility for themselves. So there's no reason why most players, once they've had one contract, all they have to do is perform. If they perform, they will get the opportunity to get another contract. And if they want to do their own contract, they will understand how well they've performed and whether they are worth more than what they last had. They can start negotiating their own contracts. There's nothing wrong in that. So education should spurn on a lot of the future athlete now should be looking at the contracts. But don't take your eye off performance. You have to perform to get a contract anyway. So I hope that I try to answer it as well as I can. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding the legislation about it, as you know, the FIFA agent ceased to exist, I would say about 10 years ago almost. So now there is the intermediary, and I know that legislation will change again, and then we will know what are the responsibilities of the football agents, and also in what level of independence can the player negotiate their contracts. Okay. So, is there any last question? No. Okay, guys, let's wrap it up. Thank you very much for all the panelists, for the great discussion. Hope to see you guys again soon, and this is it for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for another exciting, enriching, enlightening and interactive session, Ricardo. Thank you to all our panelists, Dr. Anirban Malik, Dr. Janvi Dande, Mr. Pedro Arujua, Mr. Christian Osgnach, and Mr. Tony Grant for your insightful contribution. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today on our first day of the third edition of Global Soccer Conclave.